Hello! Welcome. Thought I'd have a little pause there. Dramatic effect. I am joined today by somebody I've known for around about 3 years. Gideon, it's been almost 3 years. I remember, just like I remember the first time connected with Mark Traphagen, I remember when I connected with Gideon Rosenblatt. We'll ask if he remembers that moment too, and a little bit. Plus Your Business Show today, we're looking at business as a force for good. We're going to be talking about technology, AI, and the role of Google+, as we are, a lot of us here. We're also going to be covering some tips. We're going to do that pretty shortly. We're going to have a quick chat with Gideon first. We're going to say hi to Travis as well, who is manning the images. We've got a few images for you. And we are then going to go and have a great chat with Gideon. We've been talking. It's been wonderful. It's been really, really good. So I know you're going to appreciate Gideon's viewpoint on a lot of these things. And then we're going to come to shout-outs. And we've got tool of the week. You can guess in comments who the tool of the week could be. Last week we had Sir Closed Scope. You can guess this week. And then we're going to come to a quick, if you are interested in having a T-shirt, we've got a special plus-dough, which we'll done a roundup ready for the event in San Diego, but we can post them too. All of that modeled by Travis. All of that, probably more, you never know, may even be vaguely amusing. It's the best I get. Over to Gideon. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Hi, speaking of vaguely amusing. It's fun. This is so fun, actually. I love the setup that you've got going with this. It's cool. I feel like I'm kind of on the bleeding edge of like a new genre of media. It's cool.
Let's see how it goes. But let me just dive in, Gideon. We're going to do your background in a sec. You put this quote out recently, which was, "We are now closer to the year 2030 than we are to the year 2000. I don't know about you, but the year 2000 doesn't seem all that long ago." And I hasten to add, you didn't put it out as a quote, I made it a quote. Because I just went, yeah, we all feel something at the minute, don't we? We all feel things are starting to take off and we're here and it's exciting, but there are also some challenges and we can talk all about that. But let's come to your background. Who are you? What do you do? For those that don't know you.
So my background, I'll start with that first. I spent a lot of time in business working. I was in China for several years helping U.S. corporations, big corporations, do their work there, and then ended up at Microsoft for about 10 years, and then after that ended up running a social enterprise. So some of the stuff I talk about on Google Plus, it was good business as a force for good. That was from about 10 years of doing that kind of stuff. And now I write. I write about kind of the intersection between technology and business as a force for good on my site, which is the Vital Edge.
Yeah. So I'm going to make sure everyone's got the link to the Vital Edge as well. Now, let's talk about how we met, how we connected. Do you remember the moment? I didn't ask you this.
I was hoping that you were going to forget this part to come back to, because I remember the early stages.
Right, it was special for me. Well, you're already here. I was still, well, I was getting established. It was your presentation. It was the presentation you did that occasionally people return us to, which was your perspective on Google+.
Yeah.
And I realized that you were a professional guy. I realized you had a corporate background, but I knew that you had a different perspective. Everyone's got a different perspective, but you had a different perspective to what I was finding at the time. I went, wow, this is interesting, because it wasn't how it was formed. And as I said to you before, or how mine was forming. So you nudged it in a way which you opened it up, because you were talking about the social graph, the knowledge graph, and it was a very big picture view. And I think that you're a big thinker, and I think that's what people appreciate about you. But you also, I think you're practical and you're pragmatic about what can be done and what can't be done. And let's look at then some of that. What is a social business? Where are we going? Why does it matter? Why does any of this matter? Aren't we just going to, make some money and that's going to be the future?
Yeah. Well, hopefully we will make some money, and hopefully there will be a future, and hopefully those two will connect. The way that I think about social business, I actually, there's the thing that's so confusing about that term is that social business has these kind of two senses. One is businesses that work on social good, or social causes, and then there's this other sense that I think more of us on Google Plus are familiar with, which is this idea of a business that's kind of fully ensconced in the social network, social media scene, right, and has deeply taken that into their strategy and the way that they run. So what I tend to focus more on is that first one, which is business as a force for good. And just in a very simple way, I kind of clump it into, I think of it in two ways. One is mission driven. So companies that really do center themselves in a mission, and the second is one, a company that is more stakeholder centric, so that they're not just there to, maximize profits for their shareholders. They're there for all of the people who are contributing value to the enterprise.
Also, so we were touching on this before, community. So we're going to come on to the role of community, and I think that's one of the big things that we're doing here, and with Plus Your Business as well, which leads us into, we're going to give you tips for everybody. We're going to come back to Gideon in a second. We're just going to make sure that we're going to do 4 levels of tips today, because we had Gideon's. She's like Gideon's been a mentor, so he's going to like level 5. So that was the one. Is realize that we're closer to the year 2030. But let's come to level 1, 2, 3, 4, because I know people like tips. Last week we talked about your profile image. So level 1 tip: make sure your cover photo says something about you. And what I mean by that is make sure it allows people to kind of connect with you on a more human level than certainly having the basic one. But you've got an opportunity to display yourself. So make sure you change it, number 1, but also make sure it says something. Okay, next one, level 2 in the Academy. Create one circle where you have people on notify. This will punctuate your attention. Do you have people on notify, Gideon? Out of interest, do you have that? Yeah. So this is a great way to make sure that you don't miss people's posts if you really value them. Okay, that's a level 2 tip. Level 3, social is the newspaper, search is the library. So this is very much because the folks in level 3 are doing social SEO this week. So think about it that you are engaging on things that are in your stream, which can flick it up into search, both in private search and in logged out as well, which is when we move into level 4, which is primarily about getting the search results. Well, actually, it's about community build. Well, it's a little bit of both. When you get to level 4, you want in mind what you're going after, because you're really well on the way to building the community. So it is there. The tip for this week: build bridges. Always be looking to build bridges. Don't burn them. So that's the tip there. Okay, back to Gideon. Gideon.
Yeah, good tips. I like those tips. And actually, the profile one, when I heard you say that, I thought blue and white scarf. That was the first thing that popped to mind, because that's when I think of you. That's what comes to mind.
Yeah, I can't change that photo now. I know. I look just as young as I did 2 years ago. Okay, so
you should get a tattoo on your neck that's just
something, or purple hair or something. Yeah.
No, a blue and white tattoo.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it'd be a good look.
Right here first.
Back in Wales. Okay, thanks. So let's talk about companies that are doing well, companies that are causing concern, let's say, out in the world for you. Loaded question. You know where I'm going with this.
I think I do know where you're going, but the ones that cause the greatest concern for me are the ones that have a single-minded focus just on profit maximization, because I think that ends up distorting a lot of things. And profit is not a bad thing. Profit is a really good thing. I mean, there's so many reasons why it is a good thing. It's a forcing function. It gives us efficiency. I mean, but the question that I've been focusing on over the last 4 or 5 years is this whole question of what's called shareholder primacy. So when you see companies that are really run around that idea of the whole purpose is to extract money from the firm and pass it on to shareholders, that is where I think we run into a lot of problems. Yeah,
because it's not in necessarily the interest of the business, the people who are in the business. It's because there's an external there who's only interested in profit.
Yeah.
Because they're looking for their dividends or what have you.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Let me just bring up this. So Sheila knows something that a lot of people may not know what we're doing yet. But with Plus Your Business, I've said all along, it's a community-based business. And so we're just putting things in place that will ensure for that to be hopefully the case for the future. So thanks for bringing that, Sheila. And more will be revealed on that, because I believe that it needs to be in the stakeholders' interest in order for this to work. So that's great, Gideon. Now let's talk about Amazon, because you and I have been chatting about this for a little while now, as a potential contrast. Or they're focused largely on profit, But local bit. Tell a quick story. So I was in the toy store with my friend's kids the other day, and there were people walking around with their phones, looking at the prices of Lego and scooters and all of this sort of stuff, and going, I can get it cheaper on Amazon. And yet it's a toy store. It's got massive overhead or large overheads. Let's say, it's a big old space. Mm-hmm. What do you see happening in relation to local businesses and the potential challenges of having people like Amazon that can undercut them on price?
Yeah. So it's interesting. Amazon is this weird entity, and it's the kind of the classic problem of they're all about extracting money for their shareholders, and not so much. In fact, they've been a source of they've had a lot of criticism aimed at them because they haven't been very profitable. They just plow all of their money back in. And so that's what's so interesting about those guys is that in a way they're like a machine. They are like a giant machine that is doing two things with its profits, its potential profits. One, it's plowing it into automation. Like they are doing some serious automation. The drone stuff that maybe we'll get to in a minute but their factory automation is also pretty amazing. And that's nothing compared to all the stuff that they do with their software online. So automation is one, but then the other is customer service. I mean, they are like a machine that is just 100% dedicated to customers. So that's interesting from a stakeholder model. That's cool, actually. That's great. But the problem that people are seeing is that they're forgetting some of the other stakeholders out there, which are their suppliers. Some people include competitors in the stakeholder model. I don't happen to do that, but if you look at the kind of the fabric of society, of the other small businesses that don't happen to be in their affiliate programs, there's a lot of criticism right now about what's happening in the economy as a result of Amazon and the phenomena that you were just describing about people being on their phones and kind of doing that. What's it called? What's that word? Where showrooming, right?
Yeah. So you touched on drones, and I know Travis has got a good-looking picture of a drone for us. I mean, I'm in San Francisco right now, so I know that when the drones come, they're going to be delivering probably like weed and pizza, probably in that order to the whole of the population. But what they're basically doing is taking the automation to a level of where you don't even have to have the people that are turning up in the trucks to deliver the stuff anymore. So all they're doing is shortening the space between clicking the button and the delivery, isn't it? Until they got some teleported machine for whatever it is, for Downton Abbey turning up or whatever it is in a box set. Yeah. But from a jobs point of view, and we were talking with David Amman about this last week, this is going to remove jobs from the marketplace. So what do we do with that? Because Google is very much at the moment, I think that there's a big push about Google My Business, which is the Google local side. Mm-hmm. And it seems that Google are supporting the real world, and what I mean by that is that you actually go to a shop and you're going to have the communication with a person. You go and we're bridging. There's a bridge between this, which if people don't realize, in Stephen Levy's book In the Plex, Google called this and what they're building with the maps and everything else and the whole ecosystem the mirror world. So you have to realize there's quite a phenomena, quite a conceptual change where we are bridging between here and there as if it's one thing, and particularly because they're interested in augmented reality as one of the big things that Google are invested in. Then we've got that. So let's do a comparison then without being okay, I am a Google fanboy, but we've talked about this as well. Is Amazon seems to be almost neglecting the role of the shop owner in that stakeholder consideration. Mm-hmm. So they're stripping that out. I mean, how do you feel? I've been open about it. How do you feel about Google and what they're up to?
Well, I wrote about this a little while ago. I think one of the things that there's kind of a difference in business model, right? That's at the core of these two things. Amazon is at the heart. They're an e-commerce company, right? So the transaction is at the heart of that company, and then for Google, the most of the money up until fairly recently has been advertising, right? So in order to have advertising, you need to have people who are actually selling stuff that's not you.
Yeah.
And that's the heart of this issue. And so when you play that out, what does that look like? Well, you've got one company that, because it controls the whole transaction, can make things super clean and efficient and very customer friendly. But it creates all of this havoc in the rest of the ecosystem and the rest of the economy. And then you've got Google, which is doing something that is, I would argue, probably a lot more friendly for local businesses. It's very much aligned itself with local businesses, but there's a harder row to hoe there, because it's harder to control that whole experience with the customer. And so the work that they do to identify good stores, and I can't remember what the name of the program is. Maybe you know what it is, but where they have stores that they've identified as meeting certain criteria and things like that. That's part of that effort, I think, to ensure that quality experience.
So it's a different business model, essentially, and that's the question: is what business model? And we're on Google Plus, so we feel something's happening here. As we were talking about before, we feel that we're in the middle of a stream of information. We're connected to the people who are excited about the future, but also it's individuals coming together into communities. That's what we're increasingly seeing. And the question is, okay, what about that then as a business model? I mean, that's how we are very much going to be structured. But are you seeing community-based businesses out there in the wider world?
Well, I think that it's starting. They've been around for a while. I mean, the cooperative model is been around for a while. But I think that the work that you're doing here is really interesting in the sense of how the technology is playing such a key role in enabling this stuff. To me, it feels like this is more along the lines of the future. And by what I mean by that is, let's play out the fully automated no job scenario. People are starting to realize that at the end of that road, you have a small number of shareholders who have a lot of money, but a lot of people who used to have jobs with no money and not being able to buy much. And so that's the question that's starting to arise right now. And, so starting to look at, and I see Ifan Bal is got this open source access, transparency, universal basic income, post scarcity. Yeah, I think these are some of the other models that are starting to show up too. For me, I'm particularly interested in the notion of ownership and how the future firm basically makes it possible for the stakeholders in the business to actually get an ownership stake.
Yeah. Cool. Let me just add in Shell's comment here. So you may do your research online, but you may want to go to the local store to see, feel, and touch the item. You want the interaction with humans as well, and I think that's the thing, Shell. I think that's the bit we're saying is that we're a species that needs connection. And David Lamland is great at saying we're better when we are connected. We're better people. And we've got accountability, and we feel part of something, and we've got a role as well. And I think that's the bit which is, it's not just about, we're not just consumers. We're creators, we're curators, and I think that's why someone is, I think, getting on well and enjoying this ecosystem is because it's the most human we can get. In this
I think that's true. Well, I think the other thing that I started thinking about as you were describing that, and just some of the stuff we were talking about earlier, there are those of us who are here on Google Plus for a lot of different reasons. I'm here because I think that the connections I make with people and the things I learn from people are just much better than on the other platforms. But it just so happens that we are on a platform right now that Google has said. One of their employees has said that they're going to be infusing some of their artificial intelligence work into Google Plus.
Right.
So that's one thing. And the second thing
we're going to come on to that.
Okay. Well, I think the second thing that's so interesting is that we are now riding along on this social network that happens to be sitting on top of something that is massive and is just starting to show itself. So search. there is all this work that people like David Emerlin have been doing on semantic search and stuff, and if you start to look at where that's going with the knowledge graph, it's pretty amazing. But the other thing that I think is really interesting is search not just being about ideas, right? The idea of this book, but this actual book. Like, where can I get this in the real world? I want this copy. Where's my copy of that book? Where, you know, that kind of moving beyond the virtual into the objects that are in our real world. I have a feeling that that is where Google is headed. You know, that's what all this augmented reality stuff is all about. I mean, so if you're thinking about the searches that we do online, they're dwarfed by the kind of searches that we do in the real world all the time.
Yeah. Right, hold that thought. We're going to come back onto the AI. Great. Let's do some shout-outs. First, shout-outs just to begin with on the Travis, have you got the images? We're going to bring those ones up. So, first of all, we're going to do shout-outs to some of the Academy members. We have Nancy Andrews in level 1. If you'd like to plus mention people if they're not on the thread, then that would be great, everybody watching. So, well done, Nancy, you're through your level 1. Robin Kirkley, who is in level 2, he's actually a cadet in level 2. It should have a little C next to his and also next to the next one. But Robin's fantastic. He's a great copywriter, doing a lot of work with him at the moment, so it's wonderful. And Karen Chin is in level 3. She has just moved towards the completion of her 28 Days of Love campaign, doing amazingly well in level 3, so well done, Karen. She's also a cadet, should have a little C. And then we have Mary Stovall, who does the newsletter. I've given shout-outs to Mary before, but I want everyone to know she is doing so well, and she's just such a great support to everyone in the community, so well done to her and to everybody else. So thank you. And coming to the shout-outs on the thread, thanks for your comments, Steve, and to hello, Gisela, and to Nina and Roxanne and Ray and Dave and everybody who's watching, and it's got Stephen Cruz in there. I'm going to come back to Gideon because we've only got 8 minutes left. I'm going to keep it as a tight show. Gideon, you and I, we laugh about this. Oh, how we laugh. But so, Google have bought DeepMind. This is going to be a big thing. So Google have said, or rather the employee, or rather the owner of DeepMind who sold it, he has said that Google Plus is going to be, there's going to be infused potential, or there's going to be some input around the AI within the next 6 months. There was some, and you posted on this, Gideon. We can give people a link. So then I connected you with the video, which is about Breakout, and it's the Atari game. And if they don't know what Breakout is, everybody, basically a little slider moves across the bottom, there's a ball, and you've got to keep the ball up, and you've got to break out the top. And it goes bit, 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 right. So it's a learning algorithm. And there's a video, which I just posted today, that shows that this thing learns. Okay, and it looks like this. This is the basic thing. So the ball goes up, breaks a little chip out of the block, and then falls back down again. Okay, and this thing learns how to play the game. And it shows it, and it's like, you know, at 50 goes, it's like bit, 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 and then it drops, and it goes. And it starts going, and then at 200 goes, it's like, and it really is a very effective thing that this does. It gets to 600, right, and it shows on the video, and it zips this thing up around the top, and it basically discovers that it can zip around the top, and the ball can basically destroy the entire thing from the top, right? But here's the owner says that, and I'm going to use the quote because Gideon, you and I both picked up on it. It sort of ruthlessly exploits the weaknesses in the system that it's found. This is all automatic. Now, the point is that this is a learning algorithm that's going to be in Google Plus. He said it's so they called it, not wise, PR department in Google, they called it the agent. I've seen Matrix. I don't call it the agent. And then Gideon puts on the thread, at least they didn't call it Smith. But the point is, we're going somewhere. This technology is moving. It's moving quicker, and we want in Plus Your Business to get everyone ready in terms of their business and the connections to be prepared for a very different future to the one that we have and that we're used to. So, Gideon, that was my bit on all of that.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, you know, so there are a couple things that, you know, I write about some of this stuff, and I, you know, people ask me, well, you know, what's this really going to do for us? And it's interesting, you know, some of the cases that are starting to show up, and this is all happening very very fast, like just over the last couple of years. Before that, this was not possible, but now through this same kind of learning process, this deep learning,
Yeah.
there's software out, there's algorithms that are better at recognizing cancerous tissue than medical professionals. Right, without being trained by medical professionals. This is just using the kind of the deep learning algorithms to do that. More practically, probably, well, not more practically, more personally. Hopefully, you're not going to have to deal with that one yourself. But on Google Plus today, you can go in and do a search, or actually just on Google Search, you can search for my photos of X. And I did this the other day. And it's a way of exposing some of the image recognition work that's now happening. I did a search. I was looking for stained glass windows that I took photos of in Notre Dame, and it found it. I said, my photos of stained glass.
Wow.
All of my photos of stained glass. So, this stuff is already working. It's just, I don't know why Google's not talking about it right now. Maybe they're not quite ready to talk about it, but it's working today. If you do my photos of dogs, you will see, as long as you're putting photos into Google Plus.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It is pretty cool, but it's then knowing, it's bringing it down. Being here is the first thing. And for businesses, it's getting on the map, connecting up with the right people, having the right information, making yourself more efficient as a business and more effective, and also, I think, coming together as communities. I think those are almost the steps and stages for people.
Yeah.
So we've got, I could carry on for about half an hour.
Well, real quick, Martin, if I can ask, Gideon, what do you suggest to people? I run into a lot of business and a lot of folks that are afraid to get onto Google and afraid to get onto certain social networks because of the data mining that goes on and whatnot. So I see people have a choice of either being fearful of the technology or embracing it and learning something, getting something out of it. So do you find those arguments?
Boy, I mean, we have 3 minutes, so I don't know how to answer that, but I would say, I think it's really hard for small businesses in general to invest in their own technology. It's getting harder and harder to stay up, right? So, I'm looking at what Google is building, and I think, it's a pretty good solution. And this is not my specialty, but if you look at the set of tools that are being put out there right now, and they're relatively easy to use compared to stuff that's come up in the past. So I think. Let me just say, I'm not sure what choice companies have other than to invest in that kind of stuff, because if they don't stay up with the technology, as sad as it is, with few exceptions, there are businesses that this is not true, but for most of them, you need to be found.
Or they won't last.
Yeah.
So we're moving into the last bit. So that's the thing. So Google has given us the tools. We've got cloud storage and collaborative tools in Drive. We've got broadcasting like this, and it goes onto YouTube. We can leverage content into search if you learn how to build community systems, and we've got lots of other things as well. And you're going to get found potentially on the map a lot easier. You want to get your page set up. So this is part of the discussion on the ecosystem for being here. Tools. I've got to run to. We've only got a minute left. Travis. Tool of the week is Nodex. Everybody, amazing tool. If you want to find influencers, you want to find people that you should be connected with, Nodex.com. NOD3X.com. Lee Small, John Dietrich. John is doing an amazing job with support with people throughout the academy as well, as we have discovery sessions with him every month. So thank you for that. Travis, last bit is, if anybody would like Travis is modeling it. In fact, I've got one on as well. I'm going to model it very quickly. There we go. I've got Plusto here. Super G Plusto. We are doing a run of T-shirts. Let us know on the event thread. Plus me into it, and we will do our best to get one to you. It's the lowest price that we can possibly do. We're just going to put an order in, and we'll go from there. Look at that. He's moving about the place. Fantastic. Gideon, thank you so much. I find, would you be happy to come back at some point, and we'll continue the conversation?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's fun.
It'd be great. And
thanks for having me on. Yeah.
Really good. I think it's a different perspective on what we're doing here, and I really appreciate that. And I appreciate being around and being a friend.
Yeah,
it's been
likewise.
Great.
Likewise.
And thank you to everybody who's been watching, and to Ray and actually Mary there. Ipan, thanks for your input, and to Sheila and to Kim. And we're at the half-hour mark, trying to keep this a tight show. Let us know if you like the format. And next week, very special show again. I'm not going to announce it yet. We've got a few extra things going to happen next week, because on the 6th of March is my 3rd anniversary. I actually go into my 4th year of Google Plus on that day, and next week's the 5th. So thank you, everybody. Thanks so much, Travis. Thanks to Gideon again, and see you all next week. Bye.